Well, howdy there folks, and welcome into today's video. So first off, thank you so much for joining me. Today we're doing a straight educational video on how I find my next 10x stock opportunity. So we're talking a stock where I make 1,000% plus in, okay? And I'm gonna take you guys through everything kind of in detail, exactly how I think about this, and exactly so hopefully you can identify, hopefully, a big potential opportunity out there in the market. And there are these opportunities out there in the market, regardless if you're in a bear market, a market that's just kind of not doing much, or a bull market. There are opportunities always out there for these type of stocks that you can get into and invest in over the course of months or maybe a couple years and end up 10xing for you over time. So I hope you guys enjoy this. This is just like straight educational. I'll even take you through some stocks I've invested in the past 24 months that have either 10x or are on their way to 10xing, so we can kind of reference those for some examples in this video. So I hope you guys enjoy this. As always, if you don't mind, smash the thumbs up. That's all I ask in this video from you guys. If you feel like joining Stock Hub, it's absolutely free to do so. That is going to be linked in the description. That's the best and biggest free Discord chat out there for stock market investors. If you want to try to apply for my private stock group, I might have that as like the pinned comment or something down there. So hope you guys get a ton of value out of this. I know it's a subject that a ton of people want me to talk about, okay? So first off, all right, in terms of the last 24 months in stocks I've invested in that have either 10x or are on their way to 10xing, the only one that has hit in the past 24 months that is already over 10x is Tesla stock. And usually if you're going to get in a 10x stock, most of the time it takes several years to play out. Every once in a while you can get in an opportunity where maybe it 10x is faster than that or something like that. But most of the time it takes years for these things to play out. So Tesla's been able to hit as more than 10x. I think we're up like 1,600% or some insane number on Tesla stock. However, I have other stocks in the works that are now starting to get to places where they're like up 100% or more. And I think these type of stocks are definitely great possibilities of reaching 10x, and we'll reference some of those in the video to kind of give you some context on what I see with those stocks and kind of how it plays out in my strategy and things like that. So Upwork, I think we're up over 400% now on that stock. Freelancing economy type company, one of the biggest players in that market, actually the biggest player in that market. The Planet 13, so that's a stock in the Jack Jackson space that I'm invested in. And that one we're up many hundreds of percent now. And I think that one's on its way to 10x long term. Very good food company, we're up hundreds of percent on that one. I think that has a great opportunity to potentially 10x over time as long as they execute. The next couple of years are really important for that company in terms of how big their TAM is long term for that one. And TTCF, which is a tattooed chef, that one I also think has a great opportunity over the coming years to 10x as well. 50% plus revenue growth expected this upcoming year. They should grow, just be a growing beast for years and years to go into the future, okay? So I feel like those stocks are on their way. Now, two things I want to cover real quick before we start getting into all this, okay? First one is, a 2x stock is so much dang easier to find than a 10x stock, okay? So although there are 10x opportunities out there in the market, I'm just telling you, those are so hard. And I actually don't focus most of my attention on finding 10x stocks. I actually focus the majority of my attention actually on finding 2x stocks, okay? 2x stocks, sometimes you can take way less risk in those and you can double up your money. So that's what I really like to focus on, because it's just the amount of opportunities to 2x your money in the stock market is exponentially more than 10x opportunities. I can tell you that, okay? I mean, you can find value stocks that have the potential to 2x over the next few years. You can find turnaround plays that have the potential to 2x or more your money in the future years, and even like large caps. So even companies like Apple, Google, Amazon, Facebook, those type of companies, Microsoft, a lot of those stocks have 2x over the last few years, and those aren't like some like super hidden stocks that you had to like spend so much time like trying to research. Like those are just big tech. In those stocks, 2x, and some of those stocks will probably 2x in the future. I wouldn't be a bit surprised if Facebook stock 2x's within the next 2 or 3 years, okay? So just keep in mind, you know, I would focus the majority of your attention, although we're talking about 10xing your money, I'd focus the majority of your attention as a stock picker on finding 2x opportunities, because those are so much easier to find in the stock market than 10x opportunities. I can promise you that, okay? And number 3, keep this in mind, not everything is a 10x opportunity in the market. Right now, because the market's been pretty hot, everybody thinks that like every stock with any sort of story and anything that a CEO says about the stock is like a 10x opportunity. I can just tell you that's not accurate, okay? Not everything's a 10x opportunity in this market. Most stocks are not 10x opportunities, okay? They just aren't. They're diamonds in a rough. When you can find that 10x opportunity, just understand that is not the majority of stocks out there. When you're in a market that's been flying high like our market has for the past year, right? Since the March bottom, the NASDAQ has, I think, almost doubled, right? Or pretty dang close to doubled. Stock markets reach pretty much record highs almost seems like every day, right? When you're that type of market, there's a lot of froth in the market. There's a lot of just good feelings and good vibes in the market. And everybody starts thinking every CEO who says anything about, oh, we're going to do this is like a 10x. And I'm just here to tell you guys that's not accurate, okay? So what am I looking for in a 10x opportunity, and how do I identify that, and kind of my thoughts around this, okay? So first thing I'm kind of looking for is I'm looking for a company that's a disruptor, a disruptive company in an industry, okay? So for instance, a perfect example of a stock that's obviously worked out in the past 24 months that is 10x or more is Tesla. So Tesla, super disruptive company on so many different fronts. The way they do business, the way they raise capital, their CEO, all these things are very disruptive from the traditional way of doing things, right? But it's not just that. They're completely disrupting the entire automobile sector, right? Taking the whole entire industry from an industry that is like ICE vehicles and internal combustion engines, and that's like how it's done, right? To now every single big auto company in the entire world is basically saying, yeah, within 10 years, we're going to try to make all our cars electric cars. That's crazy. I mean, does it get more disruptive than that? That's absolutely extraordinary. An industry that hadn't had much change in forever, all of a sudden this company comes in and changes the entire industry. And now every company out there wants to be an electric vehicle maker. That's the way. That's truly disruptive. And not just that, right? Then they're disrupting how these cars are driven, right? Because they want to basically make it so the car drives itself and you don't even have to drive the car, and it can do a much better job than like a human can do in those sorts of things, right? So when you think about that, that's completely disruptive. And when it comes to a company like Tesla, a disruptor, they're going to continue to disrupt more industries in the future. A lot of people are looking at what they're doing in solar and as far as batteries in your garage and things like that, as well as potentially maybe HVAC and so many different applications and industries that company can go after long term. I mean, it's absolutely astonishing, okay? So I'm looking for a company that's very disruptive. Upwork, obviously a very disruptive company. In the overall workspace, when we think about the freelancing economy, that is something that's just going to get massively bigger in the coming years. And they're a company that's very well positioned to disrupt in that industry, right? The Planet, the way they do business is very disruptive compared to a lot of players and how they were thinking about their businesses. I mean, they're opening superstores that are massive, that are like, Disneyland of Jack Jackson, right? Very disruptive and very different business model than a lot of places. And also they focus on branded products at a time when a lot of these other Jack Jackson plays just want to flood the market with cheap product. And who cares, if it has a brand or anything like that. They've really focused around branding of their products. Very good food company, obviously plant-based foods, which is a whole disruptive change that is massive in the food industry. It's going to continue to play out over the coming years. Tattooed Chef, same exact thing, really disrupting plant-based foods in the freezer aisle specifically. So when I look at all these type of stocks, they really have to be massive disruptors in an industry, and also they have to have huge total addressable market opportunity, okay? Now, how do I judge a huge TAM, total addressable market? Well, I'm looking at the industry in general and I'm trying to see like how big is that industry, okay? So something like a Tesla, right? I mean, when you're talking about going after the entire automobile industry, that's like crazy huge opportunity, right? And you're talking about you're going to be potentially the number one player by far and away in that industry that's changing over to electric vehicles. And I've always thought like Tesla has a great opportunity to be 25%, if not 50% type market share in the United States of America long term, and maybe even in Europe as well, okay? And maybe even some other potential markets as well. That's huge total addressable market. Then you think about if they have autonomous taxi network, which is definitely a very realistic possibility within the next couple years, right? If you think about that and how disruptive that is to overall transportation, and even services like Uber, Lyft, and all these other big platforms around the world, when you really add all that up, I mean, the TAM for Tesla long term is huge. Never mind the energy side of their business. A lot of folks feel like the energy side of Tesla's business is going to be just as big, if not bigger long term, than the automobile side. That's just like, it's hard to even wrap your head around that right now, right? From where we're at. I mean, that's like, I mean, if you go back 10 years ago, you know, Amazon Web Services was like this little thing and not a lot of people knew about it. And, you know, if Bezos said, hey, that could be as big as our retail business, people are like, what? And now obviously it is. That could be, you know, Tesla's energy side of their business long term. If I think about a company like Upwork, the total addressable market, I mean, we're talking about freelancing economy. We're talking about, this is an industry that is already big. But over the next 10, 15, 20 years, it's going to be so much bigger than ever thought possible, right? And it looks like it's them and Fiverr that are going to be competing it out for who's number one and who's number two in that market long term. That total addressable market is crazy big long term, and how many different industries and adjacent industries they can get into over time. When you're the player in that market, it's epic, okay? If we look at the very good food company, Tattooed Chef, you're talking about, there's massive changes going on in the food industry right now where tons of people are experimenting with more, or not even, I don't even want to say experimenting, but just like moving toward more plant-based diets and trying to move away from certain meat products as much, right? Maybe not eating it as much. And then you have the whole vegan movement, which is straight going over to that side. That's bigger than it's ever been by far and away for many various reasons. And the food industry, it's no bigger than that. Everybody needs to eat in the world, right? So when you think about that, the TAM for those type of companies is massive. I mean, gargantuan, okay? Number 6, it's very important to think about how realistic is it for a company to capitalize on that huge total addressable market, okay? If a company's just going after huge TAM and they're just like, yeah, you know, we're gonna try to compete in this space, okay, what's the realistic probability they're gonna pull off success in that market? And they're gonna grab, let's say, you know, 5% market share in that market, or 10% market share, or 15 or 20% market share. What's that probability, okay? Because that's very key. I could say I'm gonna start a smartphone company, okay? And you say, whoa, Jeremy's starting this company, smartphone company, that's huge TAM. Okay, what's the realistic possibility I make that into a successful company and I compete against these other companies? And what's the possibility of me getting certain types of market shares? These are things that are very key to understanding on a high level, okay? So if I looked at some of these other companies like Tesla, when I got in that stock a couple years ago, they had already launched the Model 3. I saw the demand for that product, and I saw how successful that product was and how, you know, people that were experiencing it were like overjoyed with it. It was an amazing product. I said to myself, okay, this is very realistic now. Back in the Model S days, back in the Model X days, you could make an argument that it was like, Tesla's just gonna be some niche player in the automobile market long term. The Model 3 changed everything forever, in my opinion, when it came to Tesla. And that was a product that I said, this company has a great opportunity now, realistic opportunity, not unrealistic, a realistic opportunity based upon their CEO and based upon the product they had in the market, Model 3, to actually capitalize on huge total addressable market long term. And that's key. It's one thing if you just talk and you say, oh yeah, we're gonna do this, do that. It's another to have a product or service in the market that you can actually see, experience for yourself, and say, oh my gosh, this is game changing, okay? That's what's really important. A company like Upwork, they're already like doing it. They're already the biggest player in the freelancing economy pretty much out there, okay? It's very clear. Planet, when I looked at this company, I said, okay, this is an interesting opportunity. But what changed my perspective on the Planet, when I saw what happened in basically February, March, and the entire economy had to shut down, right? And the Planet had to close their stores. And I saw that management team all of a sudden focus on expanding the business still in an environment like that when they should have been done, right? And I saw a company grow revenue substantially in 2020, a year when they should have seen their business decline and maybe that company even go bankrupt. When I saw them pull off that and have success and get this business to where it's at now, I said, oh my gosh, this is actually the type of company that actually could, you know, get this huge TAM, which, let's be honest, in the Jack Jackson space, I mean, there's one of the biggest markets in the world, and it's been illegal, right? Imagine when it's legal, how big that market's going to be long term, okay? Very good food company. That was a little more speculative, okay, than some of these other stocks out there. So I saw it growing. I saw the numbers they were putting up. I saw some of the hype that was coming out of Canada around that one, and I said, okay, let's go ahead and get in that one. TTTCF, okay? That's one I looked at, and I saw the CEO there has like 35 years of experience in the food industry, has built successful companies. I watched what they're doing with the Tattooed Chef brand, their expansion. They were getting into Sam's Club, Costco, Walmart, Target. Saw the sell through. When you're watching all this makes me say, okay, this company has a realistic opportunity. When you can get into these big retailers and you can actually sell through super strong, that makes me say, okay, you actually have a realistic possibility of capitalizing on this huge TAM opportunity long term. I mean, you think about if you just look at industry numbers for, like, let's say the frozen food category of a company, like, for any, basically frozen food company, and you have this one that's expanding super fast. I said, okay, they have a realistic possibility to be huge in this space long term and actually pull it off. This is so dang key, guys, because like I said, any CEO, anybody that's in a public company can say they're going after whatever industry, they're going to try to do this, they're going to try to do that, they're going to try to be a disruptor. But who's actually got the products and services in the market that you can see with your own eyes that are actually going to realistically pull this off and become a beast, okay? That's what is key, and that's what a lot of investors miss, unfortunately. And so they get in some stock that they think is the next 10x stock, and that stock doesn't ever 10x, and actually it probably goes down over time. And they say, what went wrong? It's because a lot of times those individuals that are running that company, they just never really had the product or service in the market that was truly disruptive enough and successful enough to make you really, feel like this is a changer in the future. It's one thing to talk, it's another to actually put it in the real world. That's when you change the game, okay? Number 7 thing up here, if you're gonna try to find the next 10x stock, is around capital position. So if you're gonna have huge expansion opportunity for a business, you better have the capital to make it through, okay? And to get whatever opportunity is out there. So when I looked at some of these different companies, I said, okay, they are in either the right capital position, or I have the faith based upon who's running that company that they will get in the right capital position to expand their business, whether that means opening up more gigafactories, whether that means opening up, more offices, whether that means hiring more engineers, whether that means opening more stores, whether that means basically buying more machinery for product, expansion, whatever it needs, they're going to be in the capital position to do it, okay? And it started with Tesla. So what I saw with Elon Musk, I said, this guy can raise money in a snap of fingers. Like, Elon Musk can just say, give me $1 billion. And like somebody's like, here's $1 billion. Like, it's Elon Musk. I watched that guy raise money when he was much more of a nobody than he is nowadays, where he's like the most famous business person probably on the planet, right? Most famous person on the planet when it comes to business, is just amazing at raising money. And when he even wasn't that famous, he was still amazing at raising money. So I said, Tesla, the whole argument back in the day, Tesla's going to zero, was such a ridiculous argument that I heard from short sellers time and time again when it came in regards to Tesla stock. Because I'm looking at that and I'm like, you realize Elon Musk could raise money whenever he wants. How's a business going to go out of business, even if they were losing money, even if they continue to lose money, which now they're cash flow positive, right? And they actually can make some money on the bottom line. Even if they continue to take losses, it's Elon Musk. He can raise money no problem. And what I saw as I was investing in that stock, obviously, and still am today, like, they're in the capital position to do whatever they want. I mean, heck, nowadays their capital position is so strong that, Elon just put $1.5 billion in Bitcoin. And I wouldn't be surprised if they buy some more Bitcoin over time, because they just have plenty of money around nowadays, and they're just in the capital position to do things like that, okay? When it came to Upwork, I looked at that business model and I said, they are in the capital position to execute on this. And it's a company that's in such a growing space of freelance economy that this is a company that could get financing for whatever they want, okay? The Planet, oh my gosh. So this company has raised, we don't know exactly the amount of money on Planet 13's balance sheet right now, because you can't see the numbers up to date. You have to wait like 3 months at a time to get the quarterly reports, right? I think they have over $100 million on their balance sheet in cash with near non-existent debts. That's like, woo, flip my flapjack's hat off, okay? That's ridiculous. I mean, for the size of that company to have, let's say, over $100 million, which I truly think, if you look at all the capital raises and what they've been spending, I think they have over 100 mil on the balance sheet right now. That's extraordinary. I mean, think about how much they're going to be able to expand distribution, especially if things get federally legalized. Think about the superstore opportunity this company can expand into more states in the future, right? I mean, they are in the capital position to do it. TTCF, that's another one I looked at and I'm like, they're just in a very strong position when you got a CEO there who knows how to grow food businesses, knows how to get in with all the big retailers. You're going to be able to get the funding to do whatever you want. Buy more factories, have more machines, get more employees, things like that, okay? Being in the capital position to actually execute on these dreams and ideas and products and services of the future, that is key, okay? You can't just say, oh, I got a big opportunity for myself. If you don't have the money to execute on that, like, how are you gonna do it, okay? It just doesn't dang make sense, especially when a lot of companies that are big growth companies, that are public companies, lose money on the bottom line, right? So it's not like you have tons of profits pouring in, you're like, ooh, I can expand. No, so you have to be in the capital position to do it, okay? Next thing I'm kind of looking for, if I'm gonna find a true 10x opportunity in the market, I really need to find companies that are growing revenues 10% plus per year, and I am confident they'll be able to keep that up for the next decade, okay? The next decade. Most stocks, when I look out into them, I'm looking over the next 3 to 5 years, and specifically around the 2x stock opportunities. I'm thinking about them over the next 3 to 5 years. When it comes to these sorts of companies, the 10x opportunities, I have to be very confident that these companies can grow at least 10% plus per year top line for the next decade, okay? And so when you talk about those type of rates compounded, it's pretty impressive numbers. When I looked at Tesla, I was like, yeah, no question, okay? It's not even a question if Tesla's gonna grow 10% per year for the next 10 years, okay? I started investing in that in 2018, I looked out to 2028, and I'm like, yeah, they're gonna grow a lot faster than that. So that's not even a question, right? Upwork, same exact situation. The Planet, they should destroy those growth rates over the next 10 years per year, okay? Very good food company, oh my gosh, okay? They're growing revenues like 322% in the past quarter. I mean, the amount of growth for that company long term. The Tattooed Chef, okay, that company, I looked at that one and I said, okay, yeah, they're gonna grow revenues 50% plus over the next year. They're probably gonna grow much above 10%. But ideally, you want to find companies, if they have true 10x opportunities, this is going to make you feel much more comfortable. If you can be confident they'll grow 20% plus, ideally, per year over the next 10 years. And for all those companies up there, I can say I'm pretty darn confident they will be able to do that. And when you run the numbers on what that means, if you can grow 20% plus on average each year, over the next 10 years. Never mind if you can do 30%, 40%, 50%, which keep in mind, some of these companies are growing revenues 100% plus right now, 50% plus. If you can run those numbers and execute on that over, a decade, needless to say, the growth in your stock price over time is gonna be absolutely epic, okay? A great company that's been able to grow pretty much 20% per year every single year for a long, long time has been Amazon, right? And have we seen, look what's happened with Amazon's stock price. It's way over 10x, okay? That stock's probably over 100x'd just since I got in the stock market in 2008, 2009, right? Maybe it hasn't, but if it hasn't 100x, it's probably pretty dang close, okay? Just in the past, 12, 13 years, because every single year, Amazon's revenues pretty much go up 20%, 30%, something like that. So when you can put those numbers year in and year out, the growth of your company is on epic scale like we haven't really seen, okay? And that's when you get that true 10x plus opportunity, all right? So 20% plus per year is ideal, all right? Now, the next question that is very, very important is not just about growing revenues, especially if you want to 10x or more your stock price over time. It's about how much could actually reach the bottom line for your company, okay? Because if you have $100 billion in revenue, let's say, and only 1% of that reaches the bottom line over time, right? And you only make $1 billion of net income. Cool, that's not very impressive, right? But where it begins to get very, very special is when you can have big numbers potentially hit bottom line, okay? So 5 to 10%, long term is not impressive. And now keep in mind, when we're talking about these numbers hitting bottom line, we're not talking in the short term, we're talking about long term. So it's not like you look at a stock like Tesla or the Planet or TTCF. It's not like you look at those stocks and say, well, next year they've got to hit, you know, X dollar as far as bottom line. You're looking at those from a long-term basis, and what can they hit on a long-term basis based upon your understanding of that industry. Very, very key, based upon what you're looking at in that industry and all the different factors you're looking at there, and judging and saying, okay, I think this number can hit bottom line. So if I looked at something like Tesla, when I look at that company, long-term profitability-wise, long-term net income, I say, I believe their electric cars they'll sell long-term will be actually much more profitable, and I mean much more profitable than ICE vehicles long-term. 5 years ago, it didn't look that way at all. But today, it's looking like that's more of a realistic possibility. And 5 years from now, I think we're going to see a massive change where Tesla's going to actually make very nice profits, and it's not going to look like they're selling cars for a loss like it did years ago, okay? When I look at all these companies, Upwork, oh my gosh, you know, that's just, I mean, basically it's a website / app and things like that. They're taking servicing fees, and those sorts of business models are extremely profitable. If you can be in the 15 to 20% range, you're looking good, okay? This means, you know, basically $15 out of every $100 or $20 out of every $100 that comes in your door through revenue is actually going all the way down to bottom line, okay? I think Upwork long-term can be more toward these sorts of numbers, okay? And these sorts of numbers are for very, very special companies. Let's just put it that way, okay? There aren't a ton of companies out there that can basically have 25% to 30% of their revenue hit that bottom line. Those companies are special. I feel like Upwork has a great opportunity, okay? I feel like the Planet, when you're talking about their own brands and getting those into more dispensaries long term, never mind the superstore opportunity, I think that's a company that could definitely be in the, let's say, 20% to 25% range long term. And if you're thinking about a day and age when, let's say, you know, they're doing, you know, $5 billion in revenue, that would mean essentially $1 billion or more is making its way down the bottom line. And if you're going to say, if the Planet gets to a place where long term they can have $1 billion or more hit the bottom line, that company will justify a valuation of $25 to $35 billion, okay? You see where I'm going with this? This is why this is so dang key, because that puts it at a 25 to 30 P ratio. That's definitely very realistic for somebody that could be the premier player in that market long term, okay? And so that's why when you start to run these numbers, I mean, even if the Planet, let's say the Planet gets to a stage where they're doing, you know, let's say $2 billion in revenue, which, you know, Planet within 5 to 10 years should definitely be able to do $2 billion plus in revenue, right? If they're doing $2 billion of revenue, that means this company could potentially have, you know, 300 mil, 400 mil, 500 mil potentially hitting that bottom line. I mean, at a decent valuation, you're looking at a stock price that would definitely be up 1,000+% just based upon today's prices. Never mind when I started buying in, right? So this is where things get really, really important. Tesla long term can likely be a very profitable company. TTCF could be a very, very profitable company, very good food company as well. They're just very early days. But this company, oh my gosh, you know, when I look at their product prices they sell, when I look at the fact that in an industry like they're in, they should be able to not just expand the business massively over time, but be able to get the business more and more profitable as they get more and more scale. It's hard for me not to see them getting margins of 40% plus on each product sold long term, okay? And if they can do that, I mean, imagine the type of money that is going to be hitting the bottom line for a company like the Tattooed Chef long term. So this is the last secret part where the real magic is. Because like I said, it's great if you can put up some revenue numbers, but the real magic is if you can get to more of these numbers. If you can get to 15 to 30%, especially if you're down here in the 25 to 30% range of actual revenue coming in long term, hitting the bottom line, that's where the true magic is. And great businesses can do it, okay? You look at Apple, you look at Google, you look at some of those other companies. A lot of them, you know, are 20% to 30% is actually hitting the bottom line. Some of those companies actually a little bit more than that is actually hitting. And that is really where you get the true magic, and that's how you get a stock to 10x. They have to have massive growth. They have to have massive TAM. They have to be able to actually execute on that. They have to be in the capital position to do it. But what can actually hit the bottom line long term? And you can only figure out these sorts of things, by the way, by understanding that company on a super high level. You can't really understand that by doing a few hours of research. You gotta likely have to spend days or maybe even weeks, maybe even months potentially, it depends on the stock and your level of understanding around it, looking into this company, reading the annual reports, reading the quarterly reports, understanding that industry, looking at the competitors in that industry, looking at different research reports, looking at how big some of these industries are they're going after, what are the realistic possibilities they could pull off those numbers and things like that. Once you've really done your full research, then you can start to build a fundamental case around, yes, this is why I think they can have this much revenue growth per year. You can start running some models in a spreadsheet, or just, heck, you can write it down on a piece of paper or whatever, right? With a little calculator beside you, go old school, and then you can start running numbers on what you think is realistic for the bottom line long term. But you only can figure out these sorts of things by understanding a company on a high level. If you don't, you're not gonna be able to formulate this. And that's why some people ask me for my opinion on different stocks sometimes. I'm like, I don't really know. Because if I don't understand an industry well enough or stock well enough, I can't formulate these numbers. If I can't formulate these numbers, it's very hard for me to buy that stock, and especially if I'm trying to say this is a 10x stock, guys. So hope you enjoyed this. As always, this was just a ton of value. This was just a value drop video. Yeah, if you don't mind, smash the thumbs up if you haven't already. That helps us out in the YouTube algorithm. I appreciate you guys. Much love as always. If you want to basically apply for my private stock group, I'll probably have that linked in the description, maybe even the pinned comment. If you want to join Stock Hub, that's free to do so, and you can get in there and kind of talk stocks with a ton of other investors out there. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.